Hi guys, this is Jim Bounds with Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and we're going to talk about front wheel bearings on GMCs today. This is a pretty touchy subject. Everybody you talk to says different things about it. So you buy one of these, you start reading the manual, and the front hub says you need to replace the front bearings every 25 to 35,000 miles. So you go, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. And wait a minute, this is brand new. I don't know how many miles are on it. Do I need to get my bearings done? Oh my goodness, what do I do? Calm down. The reason they say 25 to 35,000 miles is the front end of this GMC does a lot of things. It pulls 12,000 pounds, it turns, it goes up and down, holds 4,500 pounds of weight itself. And you know, it really would ruin your day if the wheel came off. So they said, bring it in periodically. We'll pull the hub and knuckle off the coach. Now, the ball joints, the tie rod ends, the control arm bushings, they're all unloaded. Now you can really check the front end to make sure something doesn't come apart. That's the reason you take this off. So you take this thing off, big heavy thing. It's got the hub assembly where the wheel goes on it right here. Got the rotor, and then back in the back it's got the hub. Well, how do you do this? How do you take it apart? Well, you need some tools to do it, okay? So don't just run out and say, oh, I'm going to do my front wheel bearings. And if you ask somebody, have they done wheel bearings? Great. You have a bearing tool to pull it. Because there's a special tool you've got to have to pull this hub and this knuckle apart. This is an interference fit. In other words, miking it won't tell you as much as what it feels like when it comes out and goes back together. So you buy your coach. What are you going to do? All right, first thing, go drive it about 5 miles, stop, and touch the wheel. Touch the wheel at the same spot, each wheel, all 6 wheels. The front 2 will be 60% of your brakes. They should have about the same temperature. The middle 2 will have about the same, and the back 2 will have about the same. Every time you stop on the highway, always touch your hubs. Of course, if you want to be fancy and get one of the heat guns, well, then whoop-de-doo. You can do a chart. I mean, how far do you want to go? Some people have even put heat sensors in the hubs. I mean, awesome. But basically, you just want to know if the 2 front hubs are about the same temperature. If they are, chances are things are pretty good, because if there's a bearing or a brake issue, it will spike the temperature long before it fails. So if you know the condition of your bearings, chances are on the road you won't have a catastrophic failure. So you drive it home. No heat. Are you good? Let's try something else. Jack the coach up, 2 front wheels off the ground. Both front wheels off the ground. By the way, jacking this thing is real important. The strongest part of the whole front end of the coach is the windshield. So you do not want to jack one side or the other side up in the front wheels. Go to the middle, and there's a crossbar underneath the motor. Put a jack right under there and push up, and put a jack stand behind each wheel. Bring the front end up together. Okay, so the front wheel's off the ground. Grab the wheel at the top and the bottom and rock in and out like this. Now, if you go side to side, you're going to have plenty of movement, because that's all the tolerance in the steering and what have you. But up and down, really the only movement you should have, well, you shouldn't have any, but the only movement that you, if you feel it, you'll have will either be in the bearing assembly or in the lower ball joint. So if you have movement like this, get somebody underneath there, pick up on say a shovel, pick the wheel straight up and have somebody watch the ball joint from the back side. If the ball joint moves up and down and the arm stays still, you need a ball joint. Can't fake it. If the wheel goes up and down, but it's not the ball joint, and you can look at the back inside here, and you can see just a little bit of movement where the knuckle is standing steady and the hub is moving, that's bearing. That's a play in the bearing. Well, actually, it's not the bearing. The bearings probably is harder to woodpecker lips. It's two bearings with a spacer in it. If you have movement, it's from the hub and the knuckle and the bearing in between. If the hub starts to get a little bit of play in it, or the knuckle does, you'll have movement. Chances are it's not the bearing, because that will fail. It's going to be a hub or a knuckle. Okay? To know which one it is, well, you have to pull it apart. To pull it apart, you need the tool. My personal biased subjective opinion, and we do this all the time, anybody can pull the knuckle off. There's two ball joints and there's a tie rod right here. Take that loose, take this off the coach, send it to us. Or send it to anybody that's qualified to go through this front bearing assembly. Because if there is movement, it's going to need a part, which means you're going to have to do shipping. UPS loves you. What can you say? You're either going to need a hub, or you'll need a knuckle, or you may need both. But whatever it is, it's going to need shipping. So why not ship the whole thing? It takes us 1 hour to separate the two bearings, take out the seals. At the same time, you've got to separate the hub and the knuckle to get the rotor off. Well, this rotor, you can see it's a little rusty. It needs to be turned. But the only way you can turn this rotor is with these two separated. So you do that at the same time. So you got $12 to surface the rotor. The bearing, the seal assembly, it's a matched set of Timkins. It's $124 for that. It's 1 hour's worth of labor, $80, to separate all this, check it all out, and put it all back together. So say you got it apart and you need a hub. Hubs usually run about $180, $190 a piece, remachined. So you send the whole thing, we change the hub, put new bearings, new seals, pack it with synthetic Valvoline grease, put it all back together, mail it to you, you put it on, it's all done. Then, periodically, every time you stop, you check the temperature and periodically check it. And as long as there's no motion, you can keep driving. When people read, you go 25 or 35,000 miles and change the bearings, their first thought is, oh, well, it must be a weak bearing. It's not a weak bearing. This is the first front-wheel drive big block hub assembly. They've had newer ones since. Manny has got set up, taking a late model 3500 Chevrolet 1-ton four-wheel drive front suspension and adapted it to this. It's called the 1-ton. About $3,500 when it's all over. But it adapts you to a bolt-in wafer bearing, just like Bubba and Scooter uses on their pickup trucks. If somebody says, well, should I do that? There's nothing wrong with this assembly. It works great. And if all that's wrong, say is a ball joint or a hub, you can have that fixed reasonably easy, and this is still being supported by all the RV dealers, so there's no problem to do that. If you get in there that needs a hub and a knuckle, and the rotor's wasted, and say control arm bushings are gone, your ball joints are gone, well, at that point, you're going to have some major investment in your front end, so you just go to a 1-ton and be done with it. We're still, I would say it's probably 1 to 10, putting in 1-tons. This is a great system, but it really does take some kind of unique servicing to make it work. So let's review. Don't worry about the front end. Everybody talks about their 1-ton, how cool they are. Okay, it is a very cool thing. But as long as you have an up and down motion in your bearing, in your wheel, and it's not getting hot, I say just keep driving. But you got to check it all the time. Now, I know that flies in the face of a lot of other people, what they've said and what have you. And I understand that, but this has worked very well for me and for my customers. It's a way to keep you on the road without doing everything. Of course, if we're doing a full restoration and there's nothing wrong with it, we'll clean it all up and put new bearings and put it all back together. What have you. But that's the front end. That's the front wheel bearing. Front wheel drive's the big mother. It's very important. Does a lot of stuff. You need to take care of it. So, if you have any questions, let me know. Call me if you want to know further about it. Bring it down. We'll do it for you. And don't be scared of it. It's not a big deal. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you again.